Hello and welcome to Life's Like That, the podcast where we talk to people on their journey and call out the second chance hero in all of us. I'm Talie Starr. Thank you so much for joining us, and we really hope you enjoyed this episode.
Hello, Rosemary. So great to have you with us today.
Really nice to be with you, Talie.
For those people who don't know you, do you want to just tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah. My name's Rosemary Blight. I am a Sydney-based film and television producer, and I run a company called Goldpost Pictures Australia.
And can you tell us, for those that don't know, what does a producer actually do?
What does a producer do? Now, so many people ask that question, and what I think a producer does is they're a facilitator of people's creative visions. So my job is to work with writers, directors, actors, creative people to create a framework around them, a scaffolding around them to give them the best chance for that vision to work well, be even better than they dreamed. And part of it is creative input into that to help build that dream as well.
Yeah, amazing. So you navigate people's dreams, basically.
Yeah, well, yes, you could say that. And there's boring bits too, like having to raise the money so that people can have their dreams.
Yes. I can imagine that's not always fun.
No.
So we wanted to get to know you a little bit. And one of the questions I like to ask is, when you look at yourself as a child, what qualities did you have?
That's such a good question. As a child, it's quite hard. Like I was inquisitive. I liked people. I was energetic. I must have broken my arm about 8 times, falling over and out of trees and things like that. I think if I'm thinking through that now, also had strong singular friendships, like someone who had less of a big gang of friends, but more, strong friendship with one or two people. Interesting, some of those people I'm still friends with today. So I preferred that sort of relationship, and I think that's followed through.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of this energetic young child who's breaking their arm and getting into things, and I think that's kind of a lovely image for a producer as well. And when you think about the word hero, what do you think about?
I think of ordinary people. To be honest, I think I just got off the phone from an amazing woman who I met on a television show, you know, actually the first season of Black Snow, and I just speaking to her, and she's looking after her father who has dementia, and just talking to this woman who is so strong and incredible, and all the balancing act that a certain generation of women are doing. I think she's a real hero. And so I think of sort of ordinary people. I think of people who step up and step forward and keep in contact, and other people who put themselves out there to connect. Of course, heroes are also people who save lives and people who are, you know, doing the most incredible things in the world at the moment, trying to save children, which and things like that. There's definitely heroes, but to me, I like to look at ordinary people who are often unrecognized as heroes.
Yeah, and I really do agree with you in that. I think one of the things that we often do is we miss the ordinary heroes.
Yeah.
That's the goal of this, to actually pull out ordinary heroes in all of us, but other people as well. So when you started on your journey, what were you thinking you would do with your life?
I started off wanting to work in special education, and I went to university to do special education. And, one of the traits which I did have as a child that I forgot to mention is that I'm incredibly stubborn and used to think that I knew everything. Maybe some people say that I still think that. So I actually started education, and I found the whole way that education was run, which was very, at the time, it was quite around stringent rules of, well, this is how social groups work, and this is why people behave like this, and this is how you should teach. I found that very challenging. And so I wasn't particularly great. So they suggested that I should go and do communications, that maybe I'd be better in that.
Ah,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, and I'd always loved movies, and my father used to make video eight, little, not video eight, Super 8 movies and cut them up and stuff like that. So I had that, I suppose, hobby around me as I was a kid. So I went from education to communication, and it was one of those moments where I, I was given a film camera, and I was not the greatest cinematographer, but the power of what that camera could capture and what it could do, it excited me. And I didn't really look back. I knew then that I wanted to be involved in creativity. It took me a long time to get back to producing, not a long time, but longer than I thought it, quite a few years. I went into music, I managed bands, I was the door bitch at a number of venues. Took the money, paid the bands, things like that. Got the riders for bands up and down the coast. I worked in public radio um, until I found, how would I say this? Until I articulated what I wanted to do, and I actually articulated to someone that I wanted to get back to film, because I'd gone on all these different journeys, and I articulated it to the right person. And then they were with someone who said, I'm looking for a producer. And this person went, oh, I know one of those. I really wasn't a very good producer. I didn't know what I was doing. But I met a director, and she needed someone, and she wanted to make a short film. And I went, I think I can do that. I think I can bring all my experiences to the table. And that was the beginning.
Yeah, wow. I mean, it often is like that, isn't it? We
Yeah.
start on one journey and move into another. Was there that creativity sort of bubbling away inside of you that wanted to come out, or were you using it in other ways? Or
I don't think I realized that's what I needed to do. I I was very drawn to music, and not personally playing it, but I loved going to see music, and I made music videos and things like that. But I'm not quite sure I realized once it really locked in, I was a much happier person.
yeah,
I wasn't that I was deeply unhappy, but I was less sure of myself.
mm,
And once I really locked into this job, I was more comfortable. But I don't think I realized that before that moment. It sort of came to me.
and in those moments when you were trying to find where you were meant to be and what you were doing, what was sort of going through your mind through that time?
I think I think when I was young, and it was a long time ago now. Um, I was less sure of myself, and I was more nervous, and I was more looking around about how I would fit in. It wasn't like I had maybe it's how we look at other people. I felt, oh, they look like they're just fitting in naturally, and everything's working perfectly for them. And so I had less certainty about that. So I knew there was something there. But like all good things, when they come to you, they also come with really good people. The right people come with that. And those people are the people who start to affirm you. And and I think that whoever we are, we need people to go, yeah, that was really good, or you can do this. And it took me a while to find that group of people that were right for me, and allow me to do these things.
Oh,
Who created a space for me.
yes. That's the life of a creative, isn't it? Often a creative feels like I don't really fit in anywhere. I don't know where I'm going to have my expression. Often people look at other people and think, oh, but I'm not like that, or their lives fall together. I know as a creative myself, I've gone on a
Yeah.
similar journey where it's like, oh my gosh, I don't seem to have that journey. It's ironic that actually I was thinking of special education myself and ended up in this. So I think it's funny that you said that too. Um, but I think that's the life of a creative, because you don't fit a mold, you don't fit a way of thinking, you're thinking outside the box, and you're looking at things in different ways than how they're actually presented. Like, I remember one time someone gave me a sarong and I thought, "Oh, what a wonderful window covering," rather than, "Oh, what a great sarong," you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that brain is thinking in a different way, and you're right, we do need to find those people that are our people that surround us and say, "This is where I'm seeing you shine," and pull those moments out of us. So you mentioned you went on this journey with music and education and learning communications as well. And then you came across someone to pull you into a different world that I guess your soul was really craving to connect with. And what happened from that point, that turning point for you?
Yeah. It's funny because I was always, I did like climbing trees and I did all these things, but I didn't come from a family of filmmakers or like, or artists or anything. I came from an incredibly supportive family, but no one was doing what I was doing. So I couldn't, you don't do what you can't see.
Yeah.
And so when this door opened for me, it just was so natural. Like literally someone said, I need a producer. And I said, I can do that. Like, why did I think that I could?
I want to ask
I,
the question, what was it inside of you in that moment that went, I can do this?
well, what I had been doing is I'd been working in public radio and community radio and organizing gigs and doing all these sort of things and working in quite a political environment. And which I really, really loved. Like, working with community groups on how to do, how to work the panel of the radio and work, and I just sort of, you know, I was politically active when I was quite young, and that was something I understood. So when this came to me, what came to me was a project, and it was a short film, and the film was called The Killing of Angelos Sarkos, and it was about a young Greek boy who'd been shot by a policeman and killed in Blacktown. And the filmmaker, a woman called Kay Pavlou, said, I want to make a drama about this. She was Greek. She is Greek. Kay is Greek. And she said, I've got to know the family. I want to make a story about, I want to put this on the screen. And so what I connected with was the politics. I went, what a great story to put on the screen. What can we give to that family by actually giving this young man a voice and getting to know the young man through this character? So I got that. And then I just faked it until I made it. And it was, I made some mistakes. But I still make mistakes, like we all make
Yeah.
mistakes. But I am still my best friend now is that filmmaker. We're
Wow.
still very close, many, many, many years later. And we made the film and we sold to SBS. And I even went to, a year ago, we went to visit the family of that young boy and see his mum. And actually think what it was I understood the story. I understood why you'd make the story. That I didn't, and I'd done film at university, so I understood, what a camera was and what an editing suite was, but how to join all the dots, I didn't.
Mm.
But, you know, I did it. We did it.
Where do you think you got this deep um, desire to understand and tell the story from?
I think that was from my, I think it was my father
Mhm.
and mother, but it wasn't that there was great sort of far left wing politics going on in our home, but there was a deep there was a deep understanding of what fairness was and what was right. What was right. And I suppose your first question was who are my heroes? Like, I think, Dimitra Sarkos, the mother of that young boy who fought and fought and fought for the rights of her son after he was killed, that is a hero.
Yeah.
That is a woman, a Greek woman who, to be honest, doesn't have really good English. And, she living out in the western suburbs, not a lot of money. And she fought and she fought and she opened up herself to us and to Kay to tell this story. She trusted these two young women, and we were young, rocking up to her house. She'd cook us all this amazing Greek food. And I think that I can see the line between the way my parents used to talk about what was right and wrong
Yeah.
in the world.
And I think that really carries through in all of the work that you do, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I would hope so. I think, and we've had the privilege of working together, so that we have this megaphone of being content creators, and whether you're creating the work you're doing or you're creating the work I'm doing, which is on television or the big screen, if you can, really,
Yeah.
what a privilege. You've got people who are coming, you want to entertain them, totally believe you need to entertain. They're not there to be, no one wants to be lectured at. But if you can say something, if you can just use that platform to use something, show something, put a face on the screen that's never been on the screen before, open the door in a different way, I think that it's our responsibility. And that's what I get at. That's what I get from it. I love that.
Yeah, I
But
think I'm sitting with you in exactly the same place. I love that
yeah,
opportunity to open doors and see the world open up to people that maybe they haven't thought of things in a different way, or maybe they've not seen themselves or heard someone resonate with what they're going through. And I think that's such an incredible platform. So you started doing this with this production with this lovely Greek woman.
yeah.
And then how did you get to where you are now?
Um, well, I worked from the back room of my house.
Lots of creatives do.
Had a pretty good room, and of course, you there's not a lot, there was not a lot of money in short filmmaking. So I made music videos because it was at that time there was a bit of money in that. There was more money. There's nothing in it now because everyone can do it on their phone,
Sure.
and all the record companies know that, so they don't pay people for their work. Um, I I worked for home care. I cleaned houses while I was trying to create films and things like this. And I was doing lots of different things. And I had a friend, a Chilean woman actually, and she was a filmmaker, and she'd come to Australia after, she had to leave there after helping an Australian film crew identify members of the Pinochet regime. And it was so she'd had to come to Australia as a refugee and to seek asylum. And we became friends. And she came to me one day, Rosa, you've just got to focus on one thing. Stop doing so much, because I was doing a bit of everything. So I did. I took her advice. She made me laugh,
Yeah.
and I just drilled down and chose what I wanted to do. And by that time, I'd fallen in love. I'd got married, and I have still today, I have a very supportive partner, husband, um, who also supported me to do what I wanted to do. I was extremely lucky.
Yeah.
And I just chose the projects I wanted to do with the people I wanted to do. And I did it from the back room of the house for a long, long time. And then things took another turn. I was pregnant, and I was I used to also do a bit of PR work. So I was working I was organising an event for the Fred Hollows Foundation. There was a movie they were screening, and I was organising the event. And I was 8 months pregnant, and I was up a ladder, hanging up a banner. And my husband went, "You got to get off that ladder. We definitely need to find you an assistant." And even for a week to get this done. And I met this woman, and her name's Kylie Dufresne, and she came into the office and she said, "Just watch me." And she rang up and she got all this free food for this event. And into the office came all these like hummuses and cheeses and biscuits and all this stuff. And, together she carried it all the way. We decked out Sydney Town Hall and screened Fred Hollow's film, and with the wonderful filmmaker Pat Fisk. And I met this woman, Kylie, through that. And today we are co CEOs of the company together.
That's amazing.
And she's an incredible woman. And that was a change because then I had a comrade. And together we moved into another room of my house. I moved house because by then my son was in kindergarten, and I decided the only way to make this work was to always live in a house near his school.
Mhm.
So I didn't have to, I could work and he could come home, and it was like
Yeah, very
insane.
wise.
So Kylie followed me around all these houses, and we, to be honest, took $200 a week each. She sold her very, very sexy vintage car, and we started building a business.
Wow. I know.
And we now, she became a partner in the company. 10 years, 15. I don't know how many years ago now. I should know that, but
Significant amount of time. Yeah.
a significant amount of time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, look at what you've built. Goalpost Studios produces some of the most wonderful films and TV dramas that I've seen. And I know a lot of other people really enjoy them. And I think that
Thank you.
authentic voice that you started with is still there. And I think that is so important as part of the journey. What do you think when you approach a new series or a new drama? What's going through your head as you go to do that?
It's changed over the years. Um, I used to just fall in love with ideas, and I still fall in love with the idea. But now I add on to the idea. I look at who's in the group, who the other creators are, who the writers are, if there's a director on board, who the director is, because you go on that journey with them for years.
Yeah.
And so you need to be able to feel that you can create a respectful environment with this team, and that you can be excited by each other and build and get better together. So I really look at who are the team around it. And there's a lot of really good ideas out there, a lot of really good ideas, but can that great idea, does the writer, the director, the creatives, and yourself and what you can bring to it, do they have the skill to make it a TV show, to write a movie? Because it's 3, 4, 5, 6 drafts, and sometimes you're not paid to do that.
Mm,
In television, if you can get a broadcaster, they will help pay for that. But in film, you could be writing it for 3, 4 years with very little money other than the little bit of government funding you can get. So I really look at who the team is and who the family I'm going to be with the next 3 or 4 years is. And I'm sure they're doing the same.
I think that's a really important thing that I don't know if many people realize. Like, you actually bring together a team because you're going to work together, not just for the movie, but for a long time and create something together. Like, the image of the family that you're talking about. I know when I worked on Black Snow 2 with all of you,
Mm.
it really was when I met with the writers, it just felt like this family of writers sitting down to create something magic together and trying to navigate through and thinking, how do we make this realistic? How do we make this beautiful? How do we make this powerful? How do we get a message across? Like, there's so many layers to what's happening. And if you're not cohesive and working together, that could be quite awful. I
Oh,
imagine.
it can be really awful. if it's not working, it can be really awful because creativity requires you, good creativity requires you to open up your heart.
Yes.
And you've been in those writers' room, and those writers' rooms are a sacred space. So they are a space where often people will talk about their personal, what's happened to them personally, and bring in their own experiences. So it's got to be very, very safe.
Yep.
And that through every part of the way, there has to be trust because it's pressured. It's, where I'm in Cairns at the moment, cyclones are coming and the heat is rising. You've got 100 people together. It's hot. They're working really hard. So you have to have a trust and respect, and you've got to look out for each other. If you're in an environment where people aren't looking out for each other, it can be very, very, very hard. And I've had those experiences. So I look at the very beginning, going back to your original question, for a brilliant idea, then I look at who's around the brilliant idea and whether I can contribute to that idea as well.
Can I just go back for a second to when you've had those difficult situations, how did you navigate it or get through those?
It's interesting. Fortunate it's only been a couple of times, but the first time that it really obviously was not a cohesive environment and not a healthy environment. It was quite toxic and unhealthy for everyone. I shut down a bit, um, which wasn't good. And I remember I was in LA and I was with this group of amazing women who were senior members of the sort of American sort of industry. And one of them said, when I said, "Oh, look, I'm just not this is going on, but I'm just the way I'm dealing with it, I'm just not feeling it. I'm just trying to, keep going." And she said, "You've got to do something about that. You can't do that. You just can't manage it." So I I learned from that well, one, I got a couple of years for the next couple of years after that, I was very, very, I held myself back. And I learned that you have to protect a bit of yourself.
Mhm.
The role of the producer is not to be everyone's friend.
Yeah.
The role of the producer is to give, to create an environment, but you're not everyone's best friend. You are you're a leader and you've got to lead in the right way, and so you learn to be a better leader as you get older. But I think that's in every profession. No one teaches us this.
No.
Like, I should do it. People do leadership courses now, and I think that everyone should do one. But in my job, I go from a room where there's 5 people creating an idea, and suddenly I have 150 people on a film set.
Wow.
And ultimately, I and the scene and my partners, we are responsible for the health, the mental, physical welfare of those people. And to do that, you need to look after yourself. So what I did is speaking quite personally, I think I hold a little bit back since that first really tough experience.
Yeah.
Now, I hope I had one other experience where I sort of handled it slightly differently. I made a decision, well, I don't need to go back and work in that environment again.
Mhm.
And now I think I'm probably in the best place where I allow I know where my position is. Like, I'm a senior member of the team. I don't need to have my hands on the whole thing. I've got really, really good people around me, and I can't be identified by this job.
Yeah. Sounds like
Um,
you really grew through that shutting down to being able to really discern, well, what is right for me and what is
yeah,
right on a set and what is right in my position. I think that's such a hard thing. And you're right, we don't learn those kind of things. We often stumble across those things. And it's often when we don't get it right that we're told what's not working.
yeah.
But it sounds like you've navigated that exceptionally well because it's a difficult thing to do. And that shutdown response is a very normal response. Like, this is toxic. I need to protect myself. And then to start going, well, okay, if that's not working, what do I need to do? How do I need to move through that? And they're great skills that you've obviously displayed.
It was really hard, and I was certainly not perfect within the
Sure.
experiences. I think I did make some changes about uh, who were friends in my life, like, and who were work people. And I think that's really, really important. And what was interesting is that when I opened up and looked for other inputs into my own life as opposed to my work life, some amazing women came into my life.
Yeah.
Really amazing. And they're all sorts of people. They're not necessarily filmmakers.
Yeah. That group of people that really have got your back and you've got theirs. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that is such an important group of people to have around us. I think often we navigate through life trying to find those people, or we miss those people because we've got the other people in our lives saying the opposite message. And I think it's finding those people that help support us and encourage us. And they're not the ones that are going to say to us, oh, everything's great, it's all wonderful, because they might have to say to us, hey, when you made that comment, it wasn't very comfortable for me. Can we have a conversation? But they're those real, authentic relationships that
Yeah.
ground us. Yeah, definitely. I love that you not only work to have work through that whole toxic sort of thing and the struggles that you had as well, but you do that also on the film set. I know a lot of the work that we've done together with Black Snow 2 and now very exciting Black Snow 3 in the process of being filmed.
Yeah.
So I know that like the work we've done together has been about creating that really safe environment for people. How can we be trauma informed? How can we be aware of triggers that people might have? Um, what sort of brought you to that place with these stories that you're telling?
I think that has been an awareness that has come into the industry over the last decade. It's not something we thought about. Like it wasn't part, like, in filmmaking, you're okay, we need the camera team, we need this, we need this. Now we'll say, well, we need to, have we done our cultural health safety plan? We will now talk that we don't just have a safety report if you're going to fall off a boat.
Yep.
we now have we now look at a wellness report, like where are the risk areas within the job. So the industry as a whole has been doing that, which I think is extremely valuable. um, Black Snow 1, I just learned so much through Black Snow 1 because we worked very closely with the Australian South Sea Islander community, and that was 6 years ago now. And the elders of that community came around and uh, informed us about how to manage what was very hard storytelling, because it was about slavery, it was about people being stolen, and our sort of creative storytelling was someone gets murdered, and it was a young Australian Sea Islander girl. And so they sat with us for the entire filming. I would look around, there'd be 8 aunties in a tent.
Wow.
They Before anyone went on that set, anyone, whether you were the head of Stan or whether you were an extra, you had to go through cultural safety. And you had to sit with an auntie, and she spoke to you about what this history was about. And because we had a government who was saying we had no slavery in Australian South Sea Islanders didn't have this claim, that was a past government. So what I learned from that, it was that the crew loved it. The crew they loved this information. They loved hearing this. So even though I'd done parts of it through other work, that really went, this actually made it a better shoot and it made it a better show.
Yep.
So then we when we came to season 2, and you spoke to me through the television, if I remember, because you were on the
Right.
drum. And for some reason, I had the drum on, which wasn't something I watched a lot of, but I turned it on and there you were. And I found you. And then we were dealing with the homeless and domestic violence. And it just said, well, that if we do this properly, or we actually ask and we actually get in some experts and to help how we deal with this, and it just made that whole experience, your input. We always talk to psychiatrists or specialist prosecutors about the details of the story, and you and your work as a trauma specialist and someone who understands the world inform not just the stories but how we could say to crew, you don't need to be on this set today.
Yeah.
And if you say to a crew member, this is the storytelling today, in 3 days' time, we're dealing with this. You just come and talk to, and you allocate a person and you have that right reporting channels. It just makes them feel okay.
Mm.
And it's been voiced in front of all their colleagues. It's not an embarrassment to say, I don't want to be there. You're not going to lose your job. It's okay.
Yeah.
And now it's just something that I think we could get better at it. The whole industry could get better at it. And there's certainly people trying to help put budgets to this as well, because that's the other thing. It doesn't cost nothing to do this. You need to actually see it as a proper department. It just makes the show better. Like, we're in season 3 and I think we're in season 3 because of that sort of work, because it's made the storytelling better. It's made the shooting environment stronger. And everyone who's on that set sort of gets what they're doing.
Yeah. It enriches that whole experience at every level.
Yeah.
I think it's really beautiful. I feel like we've come full circle from the beautiful young person who was energetic and wanting to do things that made a difference in life and wanted to, go into special education, and then went on to this journey with her creative side to tell some of the most powerful stories. I know a lot of people in Australia know the Sapphires movie that you did, and it's like one of my favorites, and I know it's one of many people's favorites, and I know how much you put into actually telling that story so authentically and beautifully. And I think as we come into Black Snow 3, I know you're doing the same sort of work to tell that in that same way. If you were talking to people that were now thinking, oh, maybe I want to do something around this sort of area, or maybe I'm a creative that I haven't realized, or just something about themselves, what would you say to them?
I'd say you should follow it. I think that if you're searching for a whole lot of dollar signs, it's not that. But if you've got within you, then you will be looked after. If you actually go for it, I do believe you'll be looked after. It is a tough industry, but now the freedom that well, we all have, but particularly young creators with, these things. You can do it on your telephone, you can do podcasts. There are so many ways you can do it to make your mark. You and your voice should be heard. You have a right for your voice to be heard. You have a right to be here. And that's what I would say, is that you have a right to be here. It's not an exclusive club. And I'd also say that it can be a very generous club, and that you'd be surprised if you reach out, people will talk to you. People will sit and have a coffee with you. The other thing I'd say is that it's you've got to put one foot in front of the other, then you go back 3 steps and you go back forward.
Yeah.
Forward and back, but get your team around you and you do it together, and it's a joy.
Yeah, it's really breaking down that fear of reaching out and stepping into something you really believe that you need to be doing. If
Yeah.
you were going to be speaking to that little girl that you talked about at the beginning, what would you tell her that you have learnt and got now that she didn't have?
That you're okay, that you're, you do belong, that I don't have to you don't have to look at other people and compare, that actually who you are is fine and you're going to be fine.
Yeah, I love that. You don't have to look at
Yeah.
other people and compare. Who you are is fine, and you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Well, Rosemary Blight, thank you so much for speaking with us today. It has been an absolute blessing to chat with you.
Yeah.
Always such a joy. And so thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.